before if Rush Limbaugh battled Sarah Palin. The day has come. You will recall that the half-governor of Alaska demanded that the White House fire Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel because he used an unacceptable term offensive to special needs kids and their families. Then today, while Emanuel apologized in person to a host of individuals connected to special needs kids, Mr. Limbaugh used the same term repeatedly and unapologetically.
Our political correct society is acting like some giant insult's taking place by calling a bunch of people who are retards, retards. Now, I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm just quoting Emanuel. It's in the news. I think the big news is that he's out there calling Obama's #1 supporters effing retards. So now there's going to be a meeting. There's going to be a retard summit at the White House.
So, when will Governor Palin demand that Rush Limbaugh be fired? I know. One works in the White House, the other doesn't. Huge difference to you and me. But Sister Sarah was way too smart for us on this point. Even before Limbaugh's remark, she had already said there was no difference. Quote, just as we'd be appalled if any public figure of Rahm's stature ever used the N-word or other such inappropriate language, Rahm's slur on all God's children with cognitive and developmental disabilities and the people who love them is unacceptable and it's heartbreaking. So she has already said it's unacceptable for any public figure of Rahm's stature to use the word, and she is appalled. Meaning either she is demanding Limbaugh be fired, or she has concluded Limbaugh is not a public figure, or she concluded that Limbaugh is not of Rahm Emanuel's stature. And thus the end game here is Ms. Palin permits Mr. Limbaugh to get away with this slur on all God's children with cognitive and developmental disabilities, thus erasing any remaining personal credibility she might have on this issue, or he has to apologize to her, or she has to apologize to him. As the old cliche goes, it's all good. Joined now by Margaret Carlson, Washington editor of The Week magazine and political columnist for Bloomberg News. Margaret, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Can Palin really get away with not calling Limbaugh out now?
She can't, and I don't think she will want to. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think because it is a matter of the heart for her, I don't think she wears this child on her sleeve. The way she kind of faked being offended about David Letterman's remark about Bristol. I think she'll be, there may be, I don't know how it will come about, but I bet Rush Limbaugh quickly apologizes himself, knowing that she will have to treat him the same way. Actually, his words were so offensive. The word retard is worse than the word retarded. It is a real insult. And these feelings that family members have are so tender for the people in their family. And there are 1,000 slights that these kids receive in a lifetime, and the parents never stop trying to make up for it.
If you're right, what happens to Limbaugh's power and the sense of the rankings in the Republican Party and the conservative movement?
Well, you say stature. Stature's in the mind of the beholder, but certainly Rush Limbaugh and some other talk show hosts literally run the Republican Party now. They are the kingmakers. They have more followers than any other faction in the party. Doesn't Rush Limbaugh claim 100 million listeners? So certainly he is a public figure of the sort Sarah Palin had in mind when she called out Rahm Emanuel.
There is, however, one inconsistency and one thing that mitigates against your prediction. Last year in a book, Ann Coulter referred to Scott McClellan, the Bush press secretary, using that R word, if you will. She's called Nancy Pelosi that. Tucker Carlson called Canada an R-word cousin of the United States. No comments of any kind from Ms. Palin in any of those instances. Is it higher profile now? Is it a sense of time, relative time to the Rahm Emanuel comments that makes you make this prediction?
Well, Ann Coulter is really beneath comment.
For Sarah Palin, though?
She said so many horrible things. But Rush is in a category, a different category. And it is getting a lot of attention. It will get a lot of attention. And, you know, it's in her political interest, I think, to be consistent here and to show that she is sincere about some things, and this is one of them. I can't imagine that a mother would go against one and not the other. I mean, I would just be, you know, all my, you know, call me a sap and gullible, but I cannot imagine that she will let this go.
I hope you're right, and we certainly will find out. It is a real test of who Sarah Palin is. I guess we'll find that out shortly. Margaret Carlson of The Week and Bloomberg News. Thank you, Margaret.
Good night, Keith.
And that's countdown for this, the 2,470th day since the previous president declared mission accomplished in Iraq. I'm Keith Olbermann. Good night and good luck.